All right. Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. So glad you could make it today. Welcome to Increasing the Financial Wellbeing of Immigrant and Refugee Communities. My name is Jennifer Quiroz. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Executive Director of the Financial Empowerment Network. Just a couple of notes before we get started. Please make sure you're muted and go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. We like to see who's here in the room with us. Closed captions are enabled, so you should be able to click on the closed caption or CC button in your Zoom controls and turn those on for yourself. And then there will be time for questions. And so throughout the workshop today, if you have questions, you can either raise your hand and we'll call on folks to ask their questions out loud, or you can drop them in the chat as we're going. Either way will work great. And this webinar is being recorded, so just know that if you turn your camera on, you may get recorded if you speak. And the recording will be available on our YouTube channel after the workshop in the next few days or so. We'll have it up there. All right. So I want to take just a moment before we get started to share about the Financial Empowerment Network and what we're up to these days. For those of you who don't know us yet or don't know us well, the Financial Empowerment Network envisions communities where low and moderate income individuals are able to achieve financial well-being. And we do that through partnerships that support access to affordable, effective, and relevant services, products, and other resources. So what does that mean? What it means is that we are a network. So FEN does not provide direct services to community members, but rather we support the direct services that you all provide. I like to say that we are the financial educators of the financial educators. And so we do that in a couple of different ways. The first is through our financial empowerment integration work. And in that, we do free virtual workshops pretty much every month of the year. So like the one that you're here today for, we do these about once a month. Our next workshop is Making Home Ownership Accessible, spotlights on opportunities and resources to get ready. That will be on June 20th. June is Home Ownership Awareness Month, so we're excited about that. We have a fantastic panel that will be presenting, and you can go to that QR code or to the events page and register for that workshop. I'll drop the link in the chat in just a moment as well. And then in July, our workshop will be on preventing fraud and avoiding scams. So save the date, Tuesday, July 11th, 1 to 2:30. Registration's not open for that one yet, but make sure to mark your calendars, and that will be coming soon. We also host the Financial Coaches Network, which meets the fourth Wednesday of every month from 2 to 3:30. And you're welcome to join the list. This month on May 24th, we'll be meeting to talk about budgeting tips and tricks and how do we talk to our clients and community members about managing their money. What does that look like? What works well for folks? It's going to be a great conversation. So if you're interested, you can sign up at that link and you'll receive the calendar invite and an email with more information about that group. Our foreclosure prevention work group meets the third Wednesday of every month from noon to 1:30. So if you're interested in that, please reach out and I can add you to the list. I want to also remind folks that on our website, we have the statewide financial wellness provider directory, and that's a list of organizations that provide financial coaching, counseling, and education. So you can go find other organizations across the state. And if your organization offers those services and you're not on the directory, there's actually now a link right on the website where you can fill out your information and get your organization added. So take a look at that. And then last, we have a new financial empowerment job board that is on our website for jobs with our partner organizations. So if you're hiring, you can post your job there. And if you're looking, you can take a look. Last time I checked, there were 7 or 8 jobs up there. So feel free to take a look at that website. The other initiative of the Financial Empowerment Network is Bank On. We're the lead organization for Bank On Washington. And Bank On is a national initiative that was developed to get folks connected to safe, affordable, functional bank accounts. These Bank On accounts are low cost, low barrier, and designed for folks who have either limited banking history or may have struggled with banks in the past. The specific features are available. If you want to know more about the accounts, you can click on that account standards link right there and you can find more information. And there are now 17 Bank on Certified accounts available in Washington State. So you can look at the Bank on Washington site, go to that QR code. And by the way, this PowerPoint slide is in the link that I just dropped in the chat. So I know you can't click on the links right now, but you can go look at the PDF and grab the links from there. All right, so connect with us. There's lots of ways. Please stay in touch. We've got our website, fenwa.org. We have the Bank on Washington website. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or feel free to reach out via email. I'm always happy to chat. And with that, I just want to remind folks that have just joined us about these things. Make sure you're muted. Closed captioning is enabled, so you're able to turn that on with the closed caption button. And if you have questions, feel free to either raise your hand or drop them in the chat. We'll be monitoring both of those as we go along. And with that, I would love to turn it over to our fantastic panel. And I'm going to start by introducing Donna O'Connor, who's going to be moderating our panel today. Many of you probably know Donna, but for those of you who don't, she's the Financial Capability Program Manager and Financial Coach at Hopelink in Northeast King County. She provides direct support to clients while also managing the expansion and integration of financial capability services throughout the agency and with local partners. Increasing access to financial coaching and education is a top priority at Hopelink. And for over the past year, Donna has led the development of their new Financial Foundations for Immigrant and Refugees curriculum. So I'm so thankful to Donna for joining us today and for helping with planning of this workshop and managing the panel today. So thank you, Donna, and I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to be moderating this discussion on increasing the financial well-being of immigrants and refugees. I'm going to be introducing our 5 very knowledgeable panelists today. They are representing both community-based organizations as well as financial institutions. And so how this is going to go is I'll first introduce our 3 panelists from the community-based nonprofit organizations, and then each will be able to share a little bit more detailed information about the organizations they represent. And then once they're done, I'll introduce our remaining 2 panelists, which represent financial institutions, and I'll be asking them to share information about their organizations as well. I do want to note that full bios for all of our participants and panelists are provided, so you can learn more about them and the unique and valuable perspectives that they bring to this discussion today. I'm going to do my best just to summarize some of the highlights in our introductions. So our first 3 panelists from the community-based kind of nonprofit sector are Mary Vargas with Tacoma Community House. Sorry, Mary. Mary began her journey with Tacoma Community House 6 years ago as an ELA student. She was so impressed with their work. She knew she wanted to be part of the team. And after completing her degree in administration, she began working at Tacoma Community House as a receptionist. And shortly after, she became a financial coach. Mary has also had years of experience in both ESL and adult basic education programs, as well as an interpreter. Olga Kola with Mother Africa. 2 years ago, Olga joined Mother Africa, which is a nonprofit that serves African refugees and immigrants in King County. Olga is the program coordinator for Mother Africa's Economic Empowerment Program, where she supports and leads aspiring small business owners to start or improve their businesses. She was born and raised in Burkina Faso, where she attended university and earned a master's degree in business law. And finally, Macy Birdwell with World Relief. Macy is an AmeriCorps member from Texas who serves World Relief Western Washington as a financial literacy specialist. While studying international relations at university, she advocated for refugee and immigrants in the United States and the Middle East and North Africa region of the world. Through her work with World Relief, she supports participants as they navigate the financial systems of the United States and achieve economic empowerment. So welcome to you all. Mary, we're going to start with you, if that's okay, and give you an opportunity to share a little bit more about your work at Tacoma Community House.
Sure. First of all, hi. Like Donna said, I started as a ESL student. For me, was a really good opportunity because my passion is, as an immigrant, I know the struggle when you arrive to the United States and don't speak English. So I became a student, and then I remember every single time I said I wanted to work with you. I wanted to work with you, but I didn't have the preparation. I didn't have the education. So Tacoma Community House basically is like, I would say the way I call it is the home for almost every single, immigrant and refugee that arrives to Washington State. They've been here for 110 years. Well, actually this year it's the 113 years, basically. And it's been in the same spot for all these years. They have we have basically 4 main cores, which is education. And then on education, it's ELA students, ABE, adult basic education, and GED. And then also we have a immigration department, and they provide almost every single service on immigration. Amazing people, amazing immigration specialists. Every single one is bilingual. And we also have advocacy department. And then we have bilingual people over there as well. And then we actually have employment department where I am the financial coach. And we try to basically help every single people that are walks in our doors. And we actually have the reach department, which they focus on youth, young adults more. And that's a really, really big program. I am not quite familiar with them. All I know is that they focus on young adults. They help them and they redirect them, like housing them, and then like redirecting them to different pathways. Like I said, what I love about Tacoma Community House is because if you walk in our lobby and you're lost, we try to figure it out. And then if the person managing the front desk at that time don't know what to do, I mean, that person start calling upstairs and they're like, does anybody know? How can we help this person? So in between all of us, we find a way. We literally find a way. And most of the times, we are able to connect the people with different services. In my own experience, as an immigrant, I know all the struggle, like I said, and then I go up and beyond to try to connect them. And a lot of times I'm guilty. I do more than what I'm supposed to do, because realistically, I'm a financial coach. And then I know that when you're coming from another countries, it's not the same. Absolutely, it's not the same. Economy in other countries, it's definitely, it's totally different. So I struggle a lot. So every time I see people walking in our lobby, telling me their stories, first of all, I cry. Second of all, I'm like, if I can avoid people going through the same struggle, I'm gonna do it. And I try to walk them through. A lot of times I actually, like get my phone and then call other resources, and I'm like, hey, do you have these resources with you? Yes, here we go. You can go there, you can go here, you can go there. So for me, it's very important, especially right now with all these people coming from Ukraine. Just the fact that I was lucky that I got into United States, but as a choice. All these refugees from Ukraine, they didn't have a choice. It's just like, I always think in my own, like how it has to be the feeling when you get literally asked to leave your house, your belongings, your careers, your family, and move into another country where you don't know the language, you don't know the law, you don't have nothing. You know, you're just walking with probably your ID, your passport, and probably a little bit of cash. That's it. That's what you have. And then getting into a totally like puzzle, that's the way I call it. It has to be scary. I mean, it has to be scary, frustrating. I don't know. I mean, I totally get in their shoes. And I mean, like right now, we went up and beyond and opened like 3 more classrooms that we don't open to have them learning English, basically. So I have an amazing team lead, and she is like, oh my God, she's the dedicated person to help all these refugees. Because by the end of the day, we really wanted to make sure that at least when they come to Tacoma Community House, they have a safe place for at least quite a few hours. And then, you know, we wanted people, refugees, to see Tacoma Community House as probably not a second home, but at least a safe place where they can walk in and at least, you know, have somebody to listen to them and offer whatever is available on this estate for them. Basically, I mean, I'm sorry, you guys, if I get emotional, but this really, really gets me. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mary. Your passion is palpable. So we so appreciate that. Don't ever apologize for that. It's wonderful. So thank you for that. And thank you for telling us more about what Tacoma Community House is doing. Olga, would you like to share a little bit more about Mother Africa?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Donna. And sorry for my mic. I finally got in. I hope you can hear me now. Thank you for having me here today. I'm so excited. And as you were saying, I'm Olga Kola, the Economic Empowerment Program Coordinator at Mother Africa. So Mother Africa is a nonprofit organization that supports African and Middle Eastern refugee and immigrant women and their families to reach their highest potential. And I'm the Economic Empowerment Coordinator. It's a program with 2 tracks, and it has been funded by BCU, thanks to them, Boeing Credit Union. And the first track in this program is to provide entrepreneurship sessions to every year to 10 aspiring owners of businesses to start or improve the businesses. And at the end of each session, we provide seed funds and also a certificate. For the second track, it's about financial literacy and education, in which we provide financial topics every quarter, financial workshop every quarter to the community. So Mother Africa has more than 10 programs, and some have their own eligibility requirements. Like for our Flourishing Under 5 program, that program supports pregnant women, new moms, and children under 5. In the other hand, our Economic Empowerment Program and financial literacy are designed to meet the community financial need and challenges. So therefore, there is no requirement. We serve anybody, no requirement in this one. So it is important to us to speak to our clients in the native language. So a language they understand and are comfortable with. It's also help them understand and easily access the services and resources we provide. So Mother Africa hire multilingual staff and interpreters. Also at Mother Africa, we serve clients regardless of their immigration status. We provide access to financial education and resources to everyone to ensure that all clients know their rights and help them navigate any challenges related to the immigration status. So there is information about Mother Africa. So about the location, the email and phone number. So if you need any support, you are welcome to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. That was wonderful. Appreciate that very much. Macy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak with you all and share with you some more about World Relief and what we do. I'm really excited to be here today. So I work at World Relief, Western Washington. I work at the office in Kent. So we have a network of offices throughout Western Washington, and it is our goal to serve refugee and immigrant populations in these areas. So to let you know about what I do in my role, I work under our refugee and asylee resettlement department. So what this department does, we have a partnership with the U.S. Department of State. So this is the initial refugee resettlement period. So around the first 3 months that they come to the U.S. So we provide them resources such as finding housing, you know, getting in connection with resources in their community, enrolling their children in school, and things of those sorts. So getting them settled in. And I work with a program called the Match Grant program, and this is a employment program to help people get settled in jobs where they will be self-sufficient, so they will no longer have to depend on social services or organizations for their finances. So it's really exciting getting to meet people and connect them with resources that can help them with their goals. And other than resettlement, our office is pretty unique because we provide a lot more resources than the other offices in our network, just because we're such a big office. So it's really awesome to see all the services that we are blessed to provide to people. We provide youth and family services, English classes, immigration legal services, employment services, and we also have extended case management. So if initially people aren't able to get settled in, they may need more help. Our extended case management is able to work with them a lot longer than they may be able to at first. And let's see here, we also have resiliency programs that are really awesome. We have a community garden. So we have a lot of high school children who are refugees. They're able to volunteer with our community garden, and people have the opportunity to grow food in that is like native of their country. They're able to grow food that is important for them culturally, and it really helps with their access to food, because this community garden is in an area that is considered a food desert. So it's really awesome that people have access to that. And we also have sewing classes. So we have a lot of women who they're able to sew and make a living from that. So it's been an awesome opportunity to work with World Relief. And if you have any questions about these programs or want to learn more, I've included a QR code, so you can scan that and it'll take you to our website. If you have any further questions, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Macy. Appreciate it. Okay, so now we are going to, I'm going to introduce our last two panelists, both of whom work with and represent financial institutions today. So our first financial institution panelist is Thushari Gooneratne. So Thushari is a community manager in Tacoma for JPMorgan Chase Community and Business Development. She has over 2 decades of experience in the financial services industry. She is a local ambassador for Chase, whose goal is to build and nurture relationships with key community leaders, nonprofit partners, and small businesses. All of this at the neighborhood level. Thushari hosts financial health workshops, facilitates nonprofit partnerships, and offers community programming. She is helping advance racial equity by supporting Black, Hispanic, and Latino communities with tools and resources to help them improve their financial well-being. And we also have with us Elizabeth Escobar with Express Credit Union. Elizabeth is the Chief Business Officer at Express Credit Union, and she has over 11 years of experience in community development finance. She has held multiple roles, including a loan processor and loan officer, helping to build the I-10 lending program at Express Credit Union. And through that, she has gained valuable experience and perspective, which has also helped shape future development of products and services at Express. Prior to joining Express Credit Union, Elizabeth was a rural economic development volunteer for the U.S. Peace Corps in Paraguay. Go Peace Corps. I too was a volunteer many, many years ago. Elizabeth is committed to showing up in and for the community and its members when others can't or won't. So welcome, Thushari and Elizabeth. And Thushari, I think we're going to start with you. If you could tell us a little bit more about your work at JPMorgan Chase.
Absolutely. Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Thushari, and I'm the community manager for Chase Bank in Tacoma. My role was actually not even in existence till 3 years ago when JP Morgan announced the Racial Equity Commitment, which is a $30 billion investment in our community. So what does that mean, right? It's a really big number, but what that breaks down to is having people like me, boots on the ground, doing this work, where we connect community partners like Bank On, World Relief, where Macy partners with me, is one of the organizations, where we partner with other organizations, other nonprofits, and community leaders to bring the resources that JP Morgan offers to the community. Naturally, with the focus being on Black and Brown communities, the refugee and immigrant population is included in that, and I'm incredibly fortunate to have partners like World Relief that brings me in to host workshops for the communities they serve. And I included a QR code on my profile. So if you'd like more information on the services we provide, please connect with me and I would love to discuss further off this call. But in addition to that, I do want to mention that I host a variety of workshops in the community, including everything from budgeting to increasing your credit to home ownership. So we have a very good foundation and layers to building financial awareness in the immigrant and refugee population, and would love to partner with any and all of you. And with that, I'll pass it over to Elizabeth.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Yes, I am Elizabeth Escobar and I work with Express. So Express Credit Union, we're a full service, not-for-profit financial institution. We're also a community development financial institution, or CDFI. We also have our low income designation through the NCUA. So as a CDFI, we're 100% dedicated to delivering responsible, affordable lending products to help low income, low wealth, and other disadvantaged people and communities join the economic mainstream and access these products rather than using payday lenders and check cashing services. The CDFI designation that Express has was given to us by the US Treasury, and annually we do have to renew that. And we obtained our CDFI back in 2008. So our mission is to collaborate with our community to create access to financial opportunities. And to join Express, you must live or work in Washington State. Our business model relies on partnerships with community-based organizations and nonprofits to bring our services to their clients, meet them where they are at financially and physically. Some community partners that we work with, YMCA, YWCA, Hopelink, Real Change, Via Comunitaria, the Mexican Consulate, Catholic Community Services, Multi-Service Center, and Fair Start. We really strive to help those furthest from opportunity and help them understand the US banking system, which can be very complicated. So we're able to open accounts for individuals regardless of their income level, credit history, or immigration status. We don't even ask about immigration status, and we've actually asked our document providers and online application vendors to remove that question from the application process altogether. Our entire staff is made up of 14 employees. We are small, but we are mighty. And 9 of the 14 staff are bilingual, Spanish and English. That is because over 40% of our membership identifies as Latino, and over half of our loan portfolio is to individuals who hold an ITIN number. We did just launch a partnership with Language Line for interpretation services. Like Mary said, a large increase in Ukrainian refugees has prompted us to need to expand language services and also to other communities as well. So all of our accounts and loans are equally accessible to those who hold an ITIN. That's an individual tax ID number, and that's provided to those who are unable to receive a Social Security number. The ITIN is used to pay taxes, but you can also open a bank account and build credit with that number. Express Credit Union is also a certified acceptance agent with the IRS. Therefore, we can help individuals apply for and renew their ITIN for them free of charge. And that's year-round at our office. Just call or come in. So as for services we have savings and checking accounts that just require a $5 deposit. There's no monthly maintenance fees on our accounts, nor are there minimum balances required. And this is for all of our accounts. There's no hoops to jump through or different types of accounts. There might be restrictions placed on your account based on your past banking history. We don't check credit though at time of the account opening. We do have accounts for business owners and for minors under the age of 18 as well. And then all sorts of consumer loans, from personal loans, auto loan refinance, credit card, credit builder loans, share secure credit cards, loans to help pay for immigration application processes, attorney's fees, suspended driver's licenses. Our loan department and member service staff are trained to listen to our members, to hear their stories, and to provide services with empathy. We take the time to hear their stories and offer the appropriate product or service based on their unique situation. And then for cases where we're unable to help, or if that person needs more coaching or counseling, we do refer out to Green Path, which is a nonprofit financial coaching service that does have multiple language offerings as well. I could talk for days about Express, but I'll stop there. Thank you so much for having me today, and I look forward to the rest of the conversation.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And there are a couple of questions in the chat, and we have some time, so I was wondering if you could address them. Folks are asking if people need to be in Seattle to receive services or to work with Express Credit Union?
Just Washington State.
Washington State. Okay. And do they need to be a client with Express to get help with ITIN services?
No.
Okay.
It's free for everyone.
There we have it. Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you everyone for the questions in the chat. Keep them coming. I'll do my best to keep an eye out for those. And I know Jennifer's keeping an eye on those as well. So thanks so much. And thanks to all our panelists. I'm really excited to get into the questions. I already have questions swirling in my head just from your introduction. So this should be really a fascinating next hour together. So we have prepared some questions that I'll be asking our panelists. And then after about 30 minutes, we're going to move to an open Q&A. So you'll have an opportunity to follow up with or ask additional questions. And like I said, please also drop your questions in the chat as we go. Okay. So let's get right to it. So our first question, Thushari, I'd like to send this one over to you if that's all right. What is the role of cultural humility for providers working with immigrant or refugee communities?
That's a great question, Donna. So the best way I can answer that question is to share with you my personal experience of industry in the US. So I arrived in the US a few years ago. I won't tell you how many, as a college student. So obviously I had established a bank account in Sri Lanka where I grew up. I knew how banking worked in Sri Lanka, right? So the first time I entered a financial institution in the US, it was actually quite a humiliating experience for me because the banker spoke in bank jargon. I had no idea how the banking system in the US worked, but the bank in question really treated me as if I was just completely ignorant. And I think one missing factor when we work with immigrants and refugees is not recognizing the fact that we can't expect them to know how banking works in the US, but that doesn't mean they're completely ignorant when it comes to financial issues. So that interaction also happened to be the first interaction I really had with a public, entity in the United States. So it definitely left a mark on me. And just to, bear that in mind as you're working with the immigrant and refugee population, you may be the first interaction they have with somebody who is in the public arena, and to treat them with the same respect, and I would say professionalism, that you would treat anybody else. And I certainly did not have that experience when I was an immigrant. The second piece is not using bank jargon, right? Like even Americans have trouble understanding bank jargon in many cases. Imagine an immigrant who potentially in many cases speak English as a second language, and you're using bank jargon, even something as simple as saying a direct deposit, or saying the IRS. They may not be privy to what all of that means. So don't assume a foundational level of knowledge when it comes to what we consider basic banking terms, which may not be part of their vernacular where they grew up. So those are some of the things that I want to share with you, is to just treat them with kindness and compassion that you would treat anybody else, and not to assume a level of knowledge or level of understanding of US financial services.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And such a great perspective, you having that individually as your own experience. And I know working with immigrants and refugees, it's the echoed across so many communities. Would any of our nonprofit partners like to add anything to that about the role of cultural humility when we're working with this population? Or Elizabeth too, I didn't mean to shut you out.
I just have to echo what Thushari said. It's so important, especially like the terminology and the vocabulary. I've found a lot of the times with especially the ITIN conversation and talking about how to apply for an ITIN, like you have to do taxes, right? And people, then it opens this whole door of like, well, what's taxes? What's the IRS? Like, why do I have to do this? And so it's just kind of assume, but there's a lot missing there sometimes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And it is, it's as a nonprofit provider, suspending judgment as well as making, not making those assumptions is really critical. It's a very fearful thing to walk into a financial institution. And then just, generally having that humility that you don't know as a provider. We have no idea what our clients have, come through, been through, continue to go through, and being able to suspend that judgment is such an important part of building relationships. So, all right. Well, thank you for sharing that perspective. Before we move on to the next question, any other thoughts that our panelists want to share on cultural humility?
Well, just one kind of thing to bring up, which has been really fun for us at Express, is right, the Hispanic Latino community, when they do banking, they tend to bring their whole family, right? They want to come in person, they want everyone to understand. And so the whole family is literally in the room opening the account or signing the loan documents, and like, don't get mad about it, don't get frustrated, like that's just the way that they prefer to do business. And so just understanding different cultures prefer to do business in different ways, and learn about it, embrace it. It's great.
I see Mary nodding vigorously at that.
Yes, because for Hispanic family, it's very important to be in the same page. And then if the husband is doing something, even though the wife is there and it's not participating, the husband is like asking, like, right? We can do that, right? It's good if we do that. Even though the wife is not in the conversation, it's like, and then also if they bring like the oldest son or daughter or cousin or whoever, they're like, right. And then you're talking to them like the banker with the client, and the client is gonna be like, oh, by the way, right? If we do this, it's gonna be better for this, and they start talking about plans and goals, and so it's normal, it's cultural, yes.
I do want to add one more thing, Donna, and I just thought of this as I was looking at Macy's face on our Zoom. But Macy, as you know, I've been serving World Relief and teaching financial health workshops for the refugee groups there. And I have to say, I was very fortunate to grow up in Sri Lanka, which is a very diverse, multicultural community. So, I grew up surrounded by Christians, Buddhists, Muslims. So I'm very aware of the needs of those communities, but not everybody has had the benefit of being raised that way. But with the refugee group or the immigrant group at World Relief that I hosted several workshops just very recently, something that came up when we were talking about budgeting was, where can we cut back on expenses, right? And one thing they mentioned was that they send money back home to their families. And this is very common in immigrant and refugee groups, and something that as Americans may be a foreign concept to us, because we tend to be a more self-sufficient society. But in other cultures, it's very common for you to work in the US and send money back home. And if I'm asking them to look for spaces or areas where they can cut back on, that is not an area that we should recommend that they touch, because that is sacred to them. So just kind of be aware and have awareness on what's important to each culture.
Great point. And, right to the heart of that, suspend judgment. What may be a priority to me is not a priority or a value to someone else. And yeah, that's a great point, Thushari. Thank you. So Elizabeth, we're going to move to our second question, and I'm going to start with you, if that's all right. And you kind of alluded to this in when you were talking about some of the work that you've been doing at Express, and that is high quality language interpretation and translation is a challenge. How do you ensure language access at Express Credit Union?
Great question. It is a challenge, but also very important. So first of all, it comes from the top down, right? Our board and management support our organization and us wanting to provide services in other languages. So serving the immigrant community is built into the Express and the DNA of Express and our culture. In 2008, when we kind of shifted models to have our community development focus, our community tellers we had multiple languages. And our problem was, when you lose the staff, you lose the language. And having to rehire for that specific language, that might be hard to find someone with the experience. And so we've committed 100% to building out our Spanish language abilities in-house at Express and using Language Line and other service providers for other languages. So we've built it into our job descriptions for all our member-facing staff, that being bilingual is a requirement. When we also have some staff built into their job descriptions is helping with translations. One thing we found is you can't just expect a staff member to help you with the language because they speak that language. That's not fair. That's not what they were hired for. So making sure that we're building it into job descriptions and compensating them accordingly. So we've committed to this because of the demand of our membership and our loans over the past 12 years to the Spanish speaking community. And as I mentioned, we have large percentage membership and loans for the Spanish language. We've translated our collateral and educational materials to be in both English and Spanish. Again, we understand there are many language needs, so Language Line's helping us with those other language services. We don't want to have to require people bringing in their family or their friends to do the translations for them, right? Money is a really private and personal thing sometimes. It can be intimidating, embarrassing. There can be a sense of shame sometimes. And so not wanting to get their families involved is important. And then again, our financial coaching partners at GreenPath have a very robust language offering. So we do have confidence that when we refer members to them, that they can get the support that they need in their language of choice. So it's, you know, it's not just like one piece, it's just in all of everything that we do, thinking of how can we integrate Spanish, and then also like, okay, now we're needing to reach out to more in other languages, and how can we do that? At Multi-Service Center right now, there's lots of Russian and Ukrainian immigrants and refugees there that we've been using Language Line with and have been using their interpretation services, and it's been a great success.
Yeah, and it's an investment and an intentionality, right? So, Olga, I think you had mentioned that you wanted to share a little bit about this topic too, about ensuring access to language.
Yes, thank you, Donna. So about that, at Mother Africa, we understand the language barrier for immigrant and refugee. So all the staff is multilingual at Mother Africa, and we hire from the community, knowing that it is the native tongue of the staff, ensure like a high quality language interpretation with the clients. We never use like a free online translation service, and said all translation are from people who speak and are very comfortable with the language. When a client calls, for example, for assistance, we connect the client with someone with Mother Africa who speak the same language like them. We sometimes also hire interpreters if needed, but still within the community. In addition, we provide all services and material, whether online or virtual, in multiple languages other than English. Some of the languages we speak with our clients are English, Arabic, French, Swahili, Mai, and other African languages. Like for example, if I'm sharing like a resource with a French-speaking client, so I offer them a translated version and a voice message translated into French so they can understand it better. Our work is to ensure that community members are understood. They do not have to face the barrier they usually do, and we help them find anything they need in the languages they understand better. Yes, that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mary, did you have something you wanted to add as well?
Basically, Elizabeth kind of covered everything, but when I saw that question, I automatically remember in my very first week working at Tacoma Community House, the police department dropped off a kid, and then I'm saying kid, it was because it was like on his 18s, from Russia or Ukrainian, you know, and then he crossed the border through Mexico, and I don't know how ended up in the Tacoma Police Department. So Tacoma Police Department just came and dropped him off on our doors. So me as a receptionist, because I start as a receptionist, when I arrived to the building, I saw this guy. I mean, it was wet because it was in the winter time. He was cold, and he was like this, shaking, and then that break my heart. So I went approach him, but I didn't speak Russian. He didn't speak Spanish. He didn't speak English. And then I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So another coworker arrived, and I'm like, we need to help him. We have to. So we open the doors and we bring him in, and then we start using our phones, you know, and I was like, please speak to my phone, speak to my phone. And we were like this, you know, back and forth. And the executive director got in, and then, oh my God, it was amazing how within minutes, like 5 of the coworkers got involved into helping him One of them went to McDonald's, got him breakfast. Another one was like, okay, I take you to this shelter. And then we were like this. So my thing is, if you're gonna work in a nonprofit, which usually refugees goes to nonprofit first, you have to have the passion. If you're gonna apply for a nonprofit, it's because you feel the passion to help, not because you need a paycheck. Because when people need a paycheck, they do what, I mean, they just do their job, 9 to 5 and clock out and go. But when you have the passion to do your job, you go up and beyond, even trying to understand a language that you don't understand. So right now we have like most of our stuff is bilingual in different languages. We have Russian, Ukrainian, we have English, Spanish, we have Vietnamese, and we have like different stuff is bilingual. And also we actually have this phone line language access, I think it's called. We get the phone and we call them, and then we allow them to basically work. So yeah, that's my thing, really.
Thank you, Mary. And yeah, I mean, you're highlighting a lot of the complexities, it's complicated and requires patience and empathy. All of those things need to be together to kind of move through that. Thushari, I saw you unmute. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, Donna, I do. I know Elizabeth mentioned a great point, and I think Tracy is sharing that in the chat as well, that the privacy would mean that they may not want their family members to know about their finances. But on top of that, I routinely have clients bring in their 12-year-old to translate very complex financial documents. And while I respect that, and they trust their child above and beyond a translator that the bank is providing, and I can see why. There's a cultural element and a certain level of trust associated with that. But imagine a 12-year-old trying to explain the difference between a yield and a rate, right? I have 25-year-old bankers who struggle doing that. So I really, strongly encourage you all the coaches on here to really discourage clients from bringing their children in. I've had 5-year-olds trying to translate for their parents, and I understand why they prefer that over a bank translator. But Chase, similar to what Elizabeth mentioned, also has bilingual documents. We provide all our disclosures in English and Spanish. Some documents are available in Mandarin as well. We also have a language line at our fingertips where we can translate any language when you walk into a Chase branch immediately. And we also have American Sign Language interpreters available as well with a little bit of advance. I believe it's 2 days notice, but any language can be translated by a translator who's familiar with financial terms. And I think that's an important point I want to make.
Great point. Yes. I've had that experience where someone else looked over at me and they're like, I don't know what you mean by credit activity or something like that. So you're absolutely right. So thank you all so much. So we're going to pivot over to Macy. This question, we're going to start with you. Are there particular topics that you talk about differently with communities based on their financial experience in their country of origin or cultural values?
Yeah, so I just want to say, I really love this question because it really highlights just the vast amount of people that my organization that we have the opportunity to work with. So we work with people who have different values, they have different backgrounds, and I think in a lot of ways it can be more nuanced than just country of origin. It can be within their country, what was their education level, what financial resources did they have access to back home, what was their class in their country, and then maybe even what occupations did they do back home before they had to flee. So in a lot of ways, every conversation I have with our participants is different in its own way. I would say that two of the biggest topics that come up for me are things such as budgeting. Like Thushari mentioned, people have different values about their money and, you know, how they prioritize their spending, what spending is positive to them, what is negative to them. So one of the biggest things I see is, for example, the need to purchase halal meat. That can be extremely expensive here in the US because grocery stores that sell halal meat, they're more difficult to access. So that can be really, really costly. And also in a lot of cultures, things like hosting is much more important. So you'll see someone's food expenses may be a lot higher depending on their cultural values and background. And then also another big difference is whenever I talk to people about financial institutions, sometimes when I talk to someone about opening up a bank account, you know, there might be some subtle differences from the banking systems that they were used to back home. But I've also had conversations with people where banking is an entirely new concept, or there may be a sense of mistrust towards banking because of their experiences back home. So it's really, it's just interesting seeing like how much someone's experience can affect their you know, what resources may mean to them and what resources they value. But yeah, and I want to say another thing is like prices can be really high here in the US. Like for example, housing prices are so much higher than what some people may be used to back home. So I think in a lot of ways it's trying to budget with people in ways that is like realistic to them and in a way that will help them down the road.
Thank you. Mary, I saw you unmuted. Did you want to add anything to that?
That was a mistake. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Hey, Donna, can I quickly answer Rochelle's question in the chat?
Yes, thank you.
Rochelle, you asked about tips on using the language line, and I use this religiously, so I'd like to give you a few tips. One is to directly address the client and not the translator. It's a more ethical practice to address the client instead of translate it, so it doesn't look like a three-way communication and more like a two-way communication. And of course, pace yourself, right? That's one of the things I struggle with because I speak very fast. So every concept, I pause and ask the client if they have any questions. If you do it to a normal cadence where you're speaking with somebody who speaks English as their first language or their native language, you might wait much later in the conversation to pause. So pause throughout the conversation repeatedly to ask for validation, and so go slow, ask for validation to make sure that they understand, and speak directly to the client.
Thank you, Thushari. And Elizabeth, did you want to add anything? I know you had said that this was okay.
I can answer. So how we, talk differently to different communities based on their experiences. So, first, that's why it's really important to understand where they're coming from and how their culture impacts, the view of how they manage their money. We give options of coming in person or completing documents electronically. We really don't push for electronic or automated decisioning. We really talk about keeping people's personal information secure and safe, not selling to third-party vendors. And we won't even tell someone if, you call in, does Donna have an account at Express? Who's Donna, right? Like you don't even acknowledge the fact that that person has an account with Express. One example is we do offer an interest-free savings account for communities who can't earn or for religious reasons, earn interest. Unfortunately, we don't have Sharia compliant lending, but we do have that as a savings account. So that is a way When we do offer financial education, we typically offer it through community partner organization and presenting to their clients. So we work closely with the community partner to understand who we're presenting to, what their, level of understanding is, and really tweak each presentation based on who is being presented to. And then it's a lot of communities, they don't want debt, right? They don't want to owe money. And it's like, we don't want credit because we don't want the debt. But unfortunately, the credit system in the United States, it's this like necessary evil. And so really helping, talking to people about the importance of potentially leaving a small balance on a credit card 1 month, right, instead of the zero balance, but just that concept of really you're building the trust and you're explaining why, and you're showing proof and resources and web pages. And I think that proof piece is important too. It's not just because I said so, right? It's like, here's resources you yourself can go look at. And then lastly, as mentioned, we just make it a point not to ask about immigration status. So it's not even part of the conversation.
Thank you so much. And we may come back to that too when we're in our Q&A. So I want to turn this out to the audience for a moment, and then I'm going to go to Olga. We thought it would be a good idea to just ask about what resources and tools folks have been using in languages other than English. So if you have some resources that you would like to share, please go ahead and drop those in the chat. We're going to be collecting those. And then we also have, correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, but I think we have a Dropbox kind of a repository of all of this information because we're firm believers in don't recreate the wheel when there's great stuff already out there. So would love it if you guys have tools and resources that you use. I'm going to share some of the new things that we have going on at Hopelink, but before I do that, Olga, did you want to talk on this topic?
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, so at Mother Africa, the resources and tools we use in other languages include like flyers, PowerPoint presentation, and video design and created through Canvas. We also use WhatsApp and type in different languages to communicate better with our community members. If we have like a virtual Zoom session offered in multiple languages, we ensure that we leave time for our interpreters to learn and translate and answer any questions. So we also use Zoom for breakout room, which are like sometimes beneficial for translation with more little people than the big Zoom room. So in some time I use like Google Translate when I am approached like someone who speaks a language that none of our staff speak. Like sometimes we have at Mother Africa, we don't have like Spanish speakers, and when we are approached by someone who speaks Spanish, sometimes I use like straight like Google Translate to translate what I want to say to them, text them, and when they text me back, I translate it into Google until we find an interpreter who can definitely work within us and serve better the clients. So that's what you usually do. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, terrific. And you brought up something that I hadn't been aware of until maybe a few months ago, is the kind of interpreting rooms or translation rooms where we will be on a kind of a big Zoom call, but there are breakout rooms by language, and it worked really, really well. That was the technology I hadn't used before. Jennifer dropped a link in the chat where I believe we're going to be compiling a lot of these resources. And I did just want to mention, it's not there yet, but it will be uploaded. Hopelink has been working on, over the past almost year, thanks to the funding and support of the Department of Financial Institutions, our new financial foundations for immigrants and refugees. It's a curriculum that includes a workbook for participants, and the workbooks have been translated or are in the process of being translated. We currently have them in Spanish. Ukrainian, Dari, and Pashto, and we'll be adding more languages. We chose Ukrainian, Dari, and Pashto because we had seen such a huge growth in the refugees from Afghanistan and Ukraine. So we went with those languages first. And along with that will be facilitator guides. So even folks who are not part of like a financial coaching or within the financial services industry, but say, for example, you know, church groups are working with immigrants and refugees. It's meant to be picked up by people who may not have experience with financial education, but are in a trusted relationship with the folks we're trying to reach with these materials. And so they are going to be provided free. They're going to be downloadable, and we're going to be sharing those widely, and more languages will come. So I did want to share that as well. A little plug in there for the Financial Foundations tools. Anyone else have anything to add to that before we move on to our final question? And continue, please, to drop any ideas and resources in the chat as we go. And I'll just hop over to chat right now. I don't see anything in there. So we will move on to our final question. And Thushari, I think we're going to start with you or wrap up with you, depending on how you want to think about this. So this is about partnerships. And so what partnerships have been really beneficial? What have been some challenges, or what partnerships are you looking for? And I do want to say that I'd like us to refrain from naming individuals or organizations if possible, rather just speak to kind of what about those partnerships have been beneficial or challenging.
Thank you. I'll start off with the partnerships that have been beneficial, as you mentioned, without naming organizations. So language barrier has been probably the biggest obstacle. And I've loved working with organizations that provide trusted translators. And when I say trusted, I don't mean necessarily that they have an in-depth or profound knowledge of financial terms, but they're trusted by the participants. So to give you an example, I recently hosted a workshop where there were 4 languages spoken in the room. And trust me when I say it was very difficult to get the material without the participation of the translators who not just understood the financial terms, but had that great rapport with the group. So I felt like if I had brought in an external translator, it would not have gone as smoothly, because these participants already had a connection, a relationship with these translators. So I think that is something I would love to see with organizations I partner with, that they bring in translators that are trusted by the refugee and immigrant population, because honestly, I don't know what is being said, and it can be very stressful to not know what is being communicated. So I loved being in that trusted space with them. In terms of organizations that I'm looking to partner with, I would love to partner with organizations that serve the entire family in a very holistic way. Quite often, I don't get a chance to mentor or teach financial health to the young adults and children of these immigrants and refugees that come into these workshops. The children tend to be in a separate area, or the young adults tend to be in a separate area, and I'm only presenting to the adults. I think there's great strength to teaching or hosting sessions for the family. It's just a more holistic approach, I think. So those are kind of the things that I'm looking for when I'm partnering with organizations in the community.
Thanks. Elizabeth?
Yeah, so partnerships where the partners of the community-based organization or the nonprofit, where the partner is 100% committed to the success of the relationship, has been the most successful and sustainable at Express. I've found it's very easy to make contact, and people reach out to us that want to partner and want us to work with their clients, and they're excited about the possibilities. But if there's the gatekeeper right from the staff that are actually working with the clients, that has made it difficult to deepen those relationships and make it more sustainable. You know, in those cases, the partnerships don't last too long and they don't have as much impact as they could. So making sure, you know, if you do want to partner with a financial institution, if you are in upper management, that you're sharing this information with all of your staff and enabling and allowing your staff to also collaborate and give resources. You know, the engaged partners, you're able to develop and collaborate in other ways, and even like dive deeper and create products, you know, specifically based on the needs of that client organization. We have a few partner relationships board because it was such a strong relationship. We really got to know them, their client needs. A product was created as a result of that. So those clients help identify what the specific community needs are. And as a small institution, we are agile enough to be able to kind of like spin up products and adjust things as needed. Partnerships can really take many shapes and sizes, and it's based on the needs and the capacity of that partner organization and their clients as well. So there's not like a one size fits all way to partner with financial institutions and community-based organizations. But I have found that one of the most successful ways and kind of lowest barrier ways is if you're able to find some sort of like referral partnership with a financial institution, you know, creating some sort of like warm handoff for if you're coaching someone and you know they need some sort of service. If you have a financial institution partner that you can, you know, do a warm handoff to, your client's likely going to have more success, right? You're not sending them to a black hole of a website like go apply online, right? Or go do this thing. So I did just want to call those out as some ways in how partnerships can be successful and not so successful.
Yeah. Olga, did you have something to add?
Yes, thanks, Donna. So I want to say, like Mother Africa, we have many partners, like, but I will only talk about our partner for financial literacy and education, who is Boeing Credit Union, and we're thanking them for that. And it's a 2-year program, and we are working on getting a renewal. And I hope also that we can get new sponsors for more financial literacy sessions for the community. Also, sometimes we face like challenges when the funder like decide to end the funding because like budget constraints. So wherever we have to keep our program working, and we trying to find partners so we can keep our program moving and serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Macy, did I see your hand up? And then, but then it went down.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to add to Elizabeth's point. At World Relief, one thing that I really love about our organization is we really try to do, I guess, like the warm handoffs. So for example, when I've worked with participants who are interested in opening a bank account, I know a lot of times, even for me, going to a bank for the first time was really scary. So we, whether it's like, for example, whether it's a caseworker working with them or me as a financial literacy specialist, we'll go with them to the financial institution. That way they feel like more comfortable, and then they tend to feel a lot more comfortable going through that process. And also what I've found to be so helpful is going to financial institutions, and when the staff speaks the same language, like you can just see that sigh of relief, and like removing the, I guess, language barrier creates so much more of a comfortable environment. So I just wanted to thank you all for everything you do and your efforts, especially for the language inclusion, that it's so helpful.
And Donna, if you don't mind, really quick, back to the question about tools or services for language support. Just this last weekend, we're up in Mount Vernon doing a presentation for some farm workers, and the organization hosting it, they had this apparatus. It was like, it looked like a little iPod and an earbud. And there's a guy in the back of the room with the master or receiver, I don't know what it's called. And he's translating from Spanish to Mixteco real time. And the people sitting in the audience have the apparatus in their ear. And it made the presentation go so smoothly because you didn't have to do the English, the Spanish, or the Spanish, the Mixteco. And for a large audience, I just wanted to call it out. He said it was like $1,200 for 30 pieces, 30 apparatuses. And like, it went so well, I felt, and it was seamless, and the people are sitting in the audience listening in their language and in Spanish. And so, yeah, I just wanted to mention that if people haven't heard of it, I can look and find the name of the system he used, but I liked it.
Please do. I think that would be really, really useful. Thank you for sharing that. We're about sharing resources, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to Macy's point too, we're about connecting through partnerships. None of us can do this work alone. It's impossible. And we have to connect with each other, learn from each other, and partner with each other. And so I think that was a great way to kind of segue into our next, unless anybody else has anything to add to what has already been said. We'd love to open it up to any questions that have not yet been asked from those of you who are attending today. Please, now is the time. You can drop it in the chat or unmute.
While we're waiting for a question, Donna, I just want to add something about cultural awareness. I just want to put this out there to the coaches. Don't be offended if you are not selected to present to a certain group because of
Thushari, you're breaking up a little bit. Can you?
Issue. So just to give an example, I recently, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it was just breaking up a little bit. I'm sorry. Can you start that intro again, because I couldn't quite understand that.
I don't know how much of it you heard, but I just wanted to add a piece on cultural awareness in that, you know, there are many financial coaches from many different backgrounds on this call. And I just wanted to say, like, don't take it personally if you're not chosen to speak in front of a certain group because of a cultural issue. So to give you an example, I recently hosted a workshop for a group of refugees or immigrants from a Muslim country. They were of the Muslim faith. And this particular host or organization preferred a female presenter of color. So they may have very specific requirements for certain groups. So I didn't want anyone to think like they're being left out or not given the opportunity to present, because that's just part of cultural humility and cultural awareness, right?
Thank you for that. And yes, we can hear you just fine now, so thanks. I did have a follow-up question while we're waiting in case anybody has anything they want to drop in the chat. And that is, Elizabeth, I think you might have touched on this a bit, and that was talking about, I'm just curious, bringing up immigration status as a financial institution versus, you know, a nonprofit or community-based organization. Sometimes we do data collection for specific reasons, and other times, you know, there's other pieces of data that we don't need to collect. Financial institutions, an entirely different world because you're regulated. So I'm just curious, you know, how immigration status can affect maybe some of the services and products that financial institutions can provide. And then also, how do, and this is for everyone, how do you talk about or how do you address the status of immigration status? Or don't you? Like, how is this topic brought up? Because I know I've worked with clients who, you know, that's a very scary topic for a lot of folks. So just want to throw that out there to the panel.
Honestly, because it's like, since I started working here at 2011, it's like, we don't ask, it's not part of the conversation. It could potentially impact like lending and your ability to borrow. Maybe I think it would be based on the financial institution and like their policies around like why or why not, and like their underwriting. I would say ask the financial institution if you're not, you know, a legal immigrant, what effect that would have on your ability to bank with them and what services they would and wouldn't qualify for. So I'm sorry I don't have more of an answer for you, Donna. Just I haven't really thought about that because it hasn't been a point that I've had to think about here. There was like another part of your question at the beginning that I was like thinking about an answer to, and then you moved on. So if you had another part of that question that you wanted me to answer, if you could repeat that.
Yeah, it's more about like, again, like financial institutions are, you know, that it's different because like I said, like, and like you just said, sometimes lending decisions, you know, they cannot get around that, right? But you know,
and documentation. So there's in the note in the chat. So like, yeah, what kind of documentation you use to open the account, right? So we accept the matricula consular and other documents from other countries. And so it'd be that financial institutions policies on like what documents they accept if you don't have a US issued ID or a US passport, like what kind of document could you use to open the account?
And Donna, if you have time, I can a little bit talk about the immigration status.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
So, because at Mad Africa, we talk a lot with clients when they call, sometimes they want a job or they want like assistance for food or rent or wherever. So immigration status sometimes we need to ask. So, but when we talk to them about that, we first build a trust and establish like a good relationship with them. We tell them like disclosing their studies is necessary because it's help us navigate which services or resources they can be eligible for. We also let them know that our community members know the information is private and confidential. Because like undocumented or people with temporary studies may face like barriers to access like healthcare, education, employment, and other services due to that. So it's important that we know their studies so we can better serve them. But we first try to build the trust with them. And then before then, now when there is that trust, we make them understand like someone who called, he just came to the US and called, oh, I don't have any job, I am sleeping outside, I don't have anywhere to go, I need to see a doctor. And to have an insurance, it's hard, we need to know if you are eligible. So all that, but we first try, like if they are like homeless, we first try to find them like a shelter, and little by little we talk to them, get this trust, and then now we start talking about that situation of immigration, then we can better direct them to which organization, where they can go, which resources they can be eligible for. Yes, that's what I want to add. Thank you.
And lastly, just on that, as a CDFI, we have to report out like who we're serving to keep our CDFI status. And so we do have a survey, a demographic survey at time of account opening that's anonymized. It's not reported out on like member level, but helps us identify income status, ethnicity, language, if they've had a bank account or not. And so we do collect a lot of personal information. It's voluntary, it's not required, but we do need that to keep, you know, our being a CDFI and for grant funding and those kinds of things. And so it is important that we ask some questions, but immigration status usually isn't one. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mary had dropped in the chat that in their case, they often get the question, can they provide coaching services if they are an immigrant? So yeah, it's again, we're back to relationship building, building trust, understanding the needs of those that we are serving. And I don't know, I think it's always helpful to ask why you're asking the question. What's the reason? And if there's not a good reason, sometimes there is where you have to, right? And then other times, yeah, you don't have to ask that question. So that's great. Thank you all. Oh, wow. I could spend the rest of the day chatting with everybody here. So, but we are at time. Olga and Thushari, Mary, Macy, Elizabeth, thank you all so much. This has been really wonderful. I know Jennifer had some other things she wanted to wrap up with, so I am going to turn it over to you, Jennifer.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Donna, for moderating this discussion. Thank you, Macy, Elizabeth, Thushari, Olga, and Mary, for your expertise working in different communities and for your time presenting today. I really appreciate it. I did just drop in the chat for all of you who are attending, if you could take a moment to complete a survey about today's workshop. We really value that feedback, and that informs our future workshops and provides feedback to us about how we're doing and if we can be doing better. So please take a moment. It's just a short survey. And then just remember, we will be back for our financial coaching network on May 24th. And so if you're interested in joining that group, like I said earlier, we'll be talking about budgeting. We'd love to see you there. And I'm dropping that link in the chat. And then our June workshop on making home ownership accessible, another really fantastic panel, a big panel because there's a lot to talk about. We have picked big topics this year. So thank you for sticking with us, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Take care, everybody.